War stories often show the horrors of human conflict, but few battles in World War II can rival the chaos and tragedy of the Battle of Peleliu. It was a clash where overconfidence met relentless cunning, a brutal showdown that turned a supposedly swift conquest into one of the costliest battles for the U.S. military. Why was this tiny coral island in the Pacific so vital? And how did the Japanese defenders manage to inflict devastating casualties on the most elite division of the U.S. Marine Corps? Let's dive into the untold strategies, heroism, and tragedy of Peleliu, a battle that changed the way wars were fought. In September 1944, the Pacific War was at its climax. Japan, cornered and losing territories, was determined to make every inch of land a fortress. The U.S., meanwhile, sought to secure routes for its eventual assault on the Philippines, and Peleliu was a key stepping stone. This small island in the Palau archipelago housed an airfield capable of dominating the region's skies. Control of Peleliu meant air superiority over Palau and ensured the safety of the U.S. advance toward the Philippines. But for Japan, Peleliu was more than just an airfield. It was a symbol of defiance, a stronghold to slow down the American juggernaut and buy time for their dwindling forces elsewhere. The U.S. military was certain of its superiority. Months of reconnaissance showed only modest defenses, a few bunkers, barbed wire, and mines. The island seemed ill-prepared for the American onslaught. The 1st Marine Division, the pride of the U.S. Marine Corps, was tasked with the assault. This was the same unit that had shattered Japanese forces at Guadalcanal. Their commander, Major General William Rupertus, boldly predicted they'd capture Peleliu in just 4 days. Supporting them were over 800 ships, 1,600 aircraft, and a relentless barrage of bombs and shells. On paper, this seemed like an unstoppable force. What the Americans didn't know was that the Japanese defenders, under Colonel Kunio Nakagawa, had devised an ingenious strategy. Gone were the days of suicidal beach defenses. Instead, Nakagawa focused on depth, deception, and attrition. Over months, the Japanese transformed Peleliu into a fortress. They dug over 500 interconnected caves and tunnels, using the island's natural limestone terrain to their advantage. Heavy artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and machine guns were hidden in these fortified positions. To deceive the Americans, they avoided unnecessary activity, camouflaged their defenses, and refrained from opening fire during U.S. reconnaissance missions. On September 15, 1944, the U.S. Marines landed on Peleliu under the cover of a massive naval bombardment. The initial resistance was fierce, with mines and hidden artillery destroying tanks and landing craft. But soon, the Japanese fire seemed to diminish. The Marines, believing they had broken the enemy's defenses, pushed inland. That's when Nakagawa's trap was sprung. From hidden caves and tunnels, Japanese forces unleashed devastating ambushes, isolating and surrounding U.S. units. What began as a confident advance turned into a desperate struggle for survival. The terrain of Peleliu played into Japanese hands. The island's jagged ridges and limestone cliffs became a nightmare for the Marines. Every hill was a fortress, every cave a death trap. The 1st Marine Division faced relentless counterattacks, sniper fire, and booby traps. Even flamethrowers and grenades were often ineffective against the fortified caves. The Japanese defenders were prepared to fight to the death, and they made the Marines pay for every inch of ground. What was supposed to be a 4-day campaign stretched into weeks. The U.S. Marines suffered horrendous casualties. Nearly 50% of their forces were killed or wounded. For every Japanese soldier killed, the Americans expended an average of 1,500 rounds of ammunition. The Japanese strategy of attrition succeeded. While they eventually lost the island, they inflicted devastating losses on the Americans and delayed their advance toward the Philippines. The Battle of Peleliu was a sobering reminder that technology and firepower alone do not guarantee victory. It highlighted the importance of adaptability and understanding your enemy. For the Japanese, Peleliu demonstrated their ability to innovate, even in the face of overwhelming odds. For the Americans, it was a humbling experience, a costly lesson in the dangers of underestimating an opponent. The Battle of Peleliu is more than a chapter in history. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the horrors of war, and the price of overconfidence. Let us remember this tragic struggle, not just for its tactics, but for the lives it claimed and the lessons it taught.